A wealthy CEO woke up paralyzed, alone, and broken, until one nurse's small act of kindness changed everything. What happened next? Stay with us for a story of humility, hope, and an unexpected bond that redefined both their lives. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an inspiring true story like this. The fall of a titan. The fluorescent lights of St. Grace Hospital hummed like a distant alarm, flickering occasionally as if even they were exhausted. The ICU was quiet at this hour, just a steady beeping of machines and the muffled footsteps of nurses making their rounds. In room 407, a man who once commanded boardrooms with a single glance now lay motionless, his body broken, his future uncertain. Ethan Caldwell had always been a man who moved through life like a force of nature. At 42, he had built Caldwell Enterprises from nothing into a billion-dollar empire. He was ruthless in business, relentless in ambition, and utterly untouchable, until the night his black Mercedes skidded off an icy bridge. Now, wires and tubes snaked around him, machines breathing for him, feeding him, monitoring the fragile rhythm of his heart. The doctors had been blunt. Spinal injury, significant nerve damage. You may never walk again. The words had hit him like a physical blow, but Ethan Caldwell didn't show weakness. Not even now. His fiancée, Isabel, had visited once, just long enough to drop off a note. "I can't do this," it read. No explanation, no goodbye, just 5 words scribbled on hotel stationery. His assistant had forwarded the email from the board. Interim CEO appointed. Focus on your recovery. Translation: you're no longer needed. Ethan stared at the ceiling, jaw clenched. He had spent his life believing control was everything: money, power, influence. Now, he couldn't even lift a glass of water without help. The hospital's heating system had been malfunctioning all week, and tonight the cold was particularly brutal. A draft seeped through the window, making the thin hospital blanket useless. Ethan shivered, but he refused to call for help. Asking for anything felt like surrender. At 2:47 a.m., Nurse Leah Rivera entered silently, her sneakers barely making a sound on the linoleum floor. She was used to working nights. The quiet, the solitude, the way the world slowed down. It gave her time to think, to pray, to steady herself before another grueling shift. She checked Ethan's vitals, her movements efficient but gentle. He pretended to sleep, though his breathing gave him away. She noticed the goosebumps on his arms, the way his fingers curled slightly against the chill. Without a word, Leah shrugged off her own jacket, a worn navy blue fleece with the appealing Chicago Marathon 2018 logo, and draped it over him. It wasn't much, but it was something. She lingered for just a second, watching the tension in his shoulders ease slightly. Then she turned and left as quietly as she'd come. Ethan woke hours later to the pale light of morning filtering through the blinds. Something was different, warmer. He shifted slightly and felt the weight of fabric over him. His first thought was confusion. Had someone finally fixed the heating? Then he looked down and saw it. A jacket that wasn't his. Frayed at the cuffs. Faintly scented like lavender and antiseptic. He frowned. Who would? A nurse walked past his open door, and for a split second, he caught a glimpse of dark curly hair pulled into a messy bun. Was it her? Why would she do this? Before he could dwell on it, his phone buzzed. Another email from his lawyers. Urgent. Shareholder vote scheduled. Your presence is requested. Ethan's grip tightened. Requested, not required. They didn't expect him to come. They didn't expect him to fight. But as the unfamiliar warmth of the jacket settled around him, something unfamiliar stirred in his chest. Not anger, not defeat, something like hope. The woman behind the kindness. The next morning, Ethan woke to the sound of hushed voices outside his door. Sunlight streamed through the blinds, painting stripes of gold across the sterile white walls. His body still ached, a constant reminder of the accident. But his mind felt sharper, fueled by a strange mix of irritation and curiosity. That jacket, it still lay draped over him, soft and worn, so unlike the tailored suits he was used to. He ran a hand over the fabric, frowning. Who was this nurse, and why had she done something so unnecessary? The door creaked open and a woman stepped inside, tall, with warm brown skin and tired but kind eyes. She carried a clipboard and moved with the quiet efficiency of someone who had done this 1,000 times before. "Good morning, Mr. Caldwell," she said, her voice steady. "How are you feeling today?" Ethan studied her. Was this the one? He couldn't be sure. He hadn't gotten a good look last night. "Cold," he said flatly. She nodded, unfazed, and reached the thermostat. "The heating's been out in this wing for days. Maintenance keeps promising to fix it, but..." She shrugged, a small, knowing smile playing at her lips. "Hospital bureaucracy." Ethan watched her closely. There was something about her, an ease in her movements, a lack of the usual stiffness people had around him. She wasn't treating him like some tragic millionaire, just another patient. "You're not my usual nurse," he said. She glanced up, surprised. "No, I'm not. Day's shift called in sick, so I'm covering. I'm Leah Rivera." "Leah." So it was her. Ethan hesitated, then gestured to the jacket. "This yours?" She paused, her expression unreadable for a moment. Then she nodded. "You were shivering last night. Figured you could use it more than I could." A simple explanation. No grand gesture, no hidden motive. Just kindness. Ethan didn't know what to do with that. Leah finished checking his vitals, her touch light and professional. She didn't linger, didn't ask unnecessary questions. But Ethan couldn't let it go. "Why?" he asked suddenly. She raised an eyebrow. "Why what?" "Why give me your jacket? You don't know me." Leah exhaled, almost amused. "You're right, I don't. But I know what it's like to be cold." There was something in her tone, a flicker of something deeper. But before Ethan could press further, a loud beeping echoed from down the hall. Leah straightened instantly, her focus shifting. "I have to go," she said, already moving toward the door. "Press the call button if you need anything." And just like that, she was gone. Ethan spent the rest of the morning lost in thought. He should have been strategizing, calling his lawyers, finding a way to salvage his company. But instead, his mind kept circling back to Leah. Who was she? He found out sooner than expected. At noon, a different nurse brought his lunch, some unidentifiable hospital meal, and left the door slightly ajar. Through the gap, Ethan caught a glimpse of Leah in the hallway, kneeling beside a little girl in a bright pink coat. The girl couldn't have been more than 6 or 7, her dark curls bouncing as she signed rapidly with her hands. Leah laughed, signing back just as fast. Ethan froze. Sign language. He hadn't seen anyone use ASL in years, not since his little sister, Emily, had passed. The memory hit him like a punch to the gut. Emily had been deaf, and Ethan had learned to sign just for her. After she died, he'd buried that part of his life deep, along with the guilt of never being able to protect her. And now here was Leah, signing like it was the most natural thing in the world. Before he could process it, a sharp voice cut through the hallway. "Leah," breaks over. "Room 312 needs you." Leah nodded, pressing a quick kiss to the girl's forehead before standing. The little girl waved eagerly as Leah hurried away, her small face alight with affection. Ethan leaned back, his chest tight. So Leah had a daughter, a deaf daughter. And suddenly, that jacket meant something entirely different. When Leah returned an hour later, Ethan was ready. "You sign," he said without preamble. She froze, startled. Then her expression shuddered. "You were watching me? Your daughter's deaf." Leah's jaw tightened. "That's none of your business, Mr. Caldwell." Ethan ignored the warning in her voice. "I used to sign. My sister was deaf." For the first time, Leah hesitated. She studied him, as if searching for a lie. Then, slowly, she signed. "You remember any of it?" Ethan's hands moved automatically, rusty but familiar. "Some." Leah's eyes widened slightly. Then, just like that, the wall between them cracked. Over the next hour, in between her rounds, Leah told him bits and pieces of her story. She'd been in med school once, but dropped out when her daughter, Sophia, was born deaf. The medical bills piled up, and nursing paid the bills faster. "She needs a cochlear implant," Leah said quietly, "but insurance won't cover it all. So I work doubles. Save every penny." Ethan listened, something unfamiliar stirring in his chest. Here was a woman who had given up her own dreams for a child, who worked tirelessly without complaint, and yet she'd still taken the time to give a stranger her jacket. Before he could respond, Leah's pager buzzed. She stood, her professional mask slipping back into place. "Rest up, Mr. Caldwell," she said. "PT starts tomorrow. You'll need your strength." Ethan watched her go, his mind racing. For the first time since the accident, he had something to think about other than his own downfall, and it terrified him. The unexpected connection. The physical therapy room smelled of antiseptic and sweat, a harsh contrast to the sterile cleanliness of the hospital corridors. Ethan sat in his wheelchair, gripping the parallel bars with white-knuckled intensity. His arms trembled as he tried to haul himself up, his legs, useless, dead weight, dragging behind him. Across the room, Leah watched, arms crossed. She didn't offer help. "Not yet." "Again," she said. Ethan gritted his teeth. His body was slick with sweat, his muscles screaming in protest. He had spent his life commanding boardrooms, not fighting for basic movement. The humiliation burned hotter than the pain. "You're not trying," Leah said. Ethan's head snapped up. "What the hell do you know about trying?" The words came out sharper than he intended, but he didn't take them back. He was exhausted, angry, and sick of being treated like some charity case. Leah didn't flinch. She stepped closer, her voice low. "I know that self-pity won't get you out of that chair." Ethan's jaw tightened. "You think this is self-pity?" "I think you're used to being in control, and now that you're not, you'd rather shut down than fight." She held his gaze. "But that's not going to work here." For a long moment, they just stared at each other, two stubborn forces refusing to yield. Then, to his own surprise, Ethan let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "You're fired," he said. Leah smirked. "You're not my boss." And with that, she turned and walked away, leaving him alone with the bars, his pride, and the undeniable truth in her words. Ethan didn't see Leah for the rest of the day. Another nurse handled his evening meds, and when he asked where Leah was, he got a vague answer about her shift ending early. He told himself he didn't care. But that night, as he lay in bed staring at the ceiling, he replayed their argument in his head. Leah was infuriating, yes, but she was also the first person in weeks who hadn't treated him like glass. And that meant something. The next morning, Leah was back, her expression unreadable as she entered his room. Ethan braced for another battle, but instead, she set a cup of coffee on his bedside table. "Black, no sugar," she said. "That's how you took it before, right?" Ethan stared at the cup, then at her. "How'd you know?" She shrugged. "Your assistant mentioned it when she dropped off your files." Ethan hadn't even realized his assistant had visited. He took the coffee, the warmth seeping into his hands. "Thanks." Leah nodded, then picked up his chart. "PT in an hour. You ready to actually work this time?" Ethan sipped the coffee, considering. Then slowly he signed, "I'll try." Leah's eyebrows lifted. A beat passed. Then, just like that, the tension between them eased. Physical therapy was brutal. Ethan's body protested every movement, his muscles weak from weeks of inactivity. But this time he pushed harder. This time, when Leah said again, he didn't argue. And when, after what felt like hours, he managed to stand on his own for 3 whole seconds before collapsing into her arms. She didn't let him fall. "Told you," she said, her voice softer now. "You'll get there." Ethan didn't answer. He couldn't. For the first time since the accident, he felt something other than anger or despair. He felt hope. Later, as Leah helped him back into his wheelchair, Ethan hesitated, then signed. "Your daughter, Sophia. How old is she?" Leah paused, then answered aloud. 7. Ethan nodded. "My sister was 8 when she died." The words hung between them, heavy with unspoken grief. Leah didn't offer empty condolences. She just sat beside him, silent, letting the moment breathe. Finally, Ethan spoke again. "I used to sign with her all the time. After she was gone, I stopped." Leah studied him for a long moment. Then quietly, she signed back, "Maybe it's time to start again." Ethan didn't respond. But for the first time in years, the memory of Emily didn't bring just pain. It brought warmth. That night, as Leah prepared to leave, Ethan stopped her. "Wait." She turned, curious. He reached into the drawer of his bedside table and pulled out a business card, sleek, embossed, the kind that opened doors. "My neurologist. He's one of the best in the country. If you ever need a second opinion for Sophia." He held it out. Leah stared at the card, then at him. For a second, he thought she might refuse. Then, slowly, she took it. "Thank you," she said softly. Ethan just nodded. Neither of them mentioned the jacket, still draped over his chair. Neither of them needed to. The fight to walk again. The days blurred together in a cycle of pain, sweat, and small victories. Ethan's world had narrowed to the four walls of the rehab center, the parallel bars, and Leah's steady voice urging him forward. Again, his arms shook as he hauled himself upright. Teeth gritted against the fire in his muscles. His legs, still unresponsive, still betraying him, scraped against the floor as he fought for balance. Leah stood close, her hands hovering but not touching. "You're leaning too far left. Center your weight." Ethan exhaled sharply, adjusting. For a fleeting second, he held himself up, then his knee buckled. He braced for impact, but Leah's arms caught him before he hit the ground. Her grip was firm, her body warm against his as she eased him back into a wheelchair. "Damn it," he muttered, slamming a fist against the armrest. Leah didn't flinch. "You held it for 5 seconds today. That's 2 more than yesterday. 5 seconds isn't walking." "No," she agreed, "but it's a start." Ethan glared at the floor, frustration boiling under his skin. He was used to conquering things, markets, mergers, entire industries. Now, he couldn't even stand without help. Across the room, a television played silently. A business news ticker scrolled along the bottom. Caldwell Enterprises stock drops 8% amid leadership uncertainty. His stomach twisted. Leah followed his gaze. "You're still their CEO," she said quietly. "For now." Later, in his room, Ethan scrolled through emails with growing dread. Board meetings he wasn't invited to. Deals he hadn't approved. A terse message from his lawyer. "The vote is in 2 weeks. They're pushing you out." He threw the phone onto the bed, running a hand over his face. A knock at the door. Leah stepped in, carrying a small paper bag. "You missed lunch." She tossed it to him. Turkey sandwich. No mayo. Ethan caught it, surprised. "You remembered." Hard to forget when you complain about hospital food every day. She leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "You gonna eat it or stare at it?" He unwrapped the sandwich, taking a grudging bite. "Why do you do this? What, bring you food? Any of it?" He gestured vaguely. "The jacket, the coffee, putting up with my shit." Leah was quiet for a moment. Then, "Because someone did it for me once." Ethan waited, but she didn't elaborate. Instead, she nodded to his phone. "Bad news. My company's being carved up like a holiday turkey." He exhaled. "And I'm stuck here." Leah studied him. "You really think walking again will fix everything?" The question caught him off guard. "It's a start. And if you don't..." The unspoken words hung between them. "If you never walk again, if you lose it all." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then I'll find another way." Leah held his gaze and nodded, satisfied. Good answer. That night, Ethan dreamed of the accident, the screech of tires, the sickening lurch as the car left the road, the crushing silence afterward. He woke gasping, his sheets damp with sweat. The room was dark, the only light coming from the hallway under the door. He reached for the call button, then stopped. Instead, he grabbed the parallel bars beside his bed. Gritting his teeth, he hauled himself up, his arms screaming in protest. His legs dangled, useless. 5 seconds. 6. 7. His grip slipped. He hit the floor hard, biting back a curse. The door swung open. Leah stood there, her hair messy from sleep, her scrubs wrinkled. She took in the scene. Ethan on the floor, the bars trembling from his grip. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Leah stepped forward, offering a hand. You're supposed to wait for PT. Hotshot. Ethan ignored her hand, gripping the bars again. I'm not waiting for anything anymore. Leah watched as he struggled back into the wheelchair, her expression unreadable. Then, without a word, she turned to leave. At the door, she paused. Tomorrow, we try weights. Ethan nodded. She left. But the determination in her voice lingered. The next morning, Ethan's lawyer called. They've scheduled the vote. 2 weeks from today. Ethan clenched the phone. I'll be there. Ethan, I'll be there. He hung up and looked at the parallel bars. 2 weeks. He had 2 weeks to learn how to stand on his own. And he would, no matter what it took. The gift that changed everything. The morning of the shareholder meeting arrived with a heavy summer rain. Thunder rattled the windows of Ethan's penthouse as he stood before the floor-length mirror, adjusting his tie with unsteady hands. 2 weeks. 14 days of grueling physical therapy, of muscles screaming in protest, of Leah's voice pushing him forward when he wanted to quit. And now he could stand, not perfectly, not without pain, but he could walk with a cane, could hold his own weight long enough to face his board. His phone buzzed. A text from Leah. Don't overdo it, and don't let them see you sweat. Ethan smirked, tucking the phone away. He hadn't told her his plan. Not yet. The Caldwell Enterprises boardroom was exactly as he remembered. Polished mahogany, floor-to-ceiling windows, the scent of expensive coffee and power in the air. The murmurs died the moment he walked in. Every head turned. Eyes widened. Jaws tightened. His former right-hand man, Daniel Reeves, stood at the head of the table mid-presentation. The PowerPoint behind him read, New Leadership Transition. Ethan, Daniel said, recovering quickly. We didn't expect. I bet you didn't. Ethan's cane tapped against the marble floor as he made his way to his old seat. Sit down, Daniel. That's my chair. A tense silence followed. Then, slowly, Daniel stepped aside. The meeting was a bloodbath. Ethan dismantled their proposals one by one, his mind sharper than it had been in months. He exposed backdoor deals, called out conflict of interest, and when Daniel tried to interrupt, Funny, Ethan said coolly, sliding a document across the table. Because this says you've been funneling company funds into your pet project for months. Care to explain? Daniel paled. By the time the vote was called, it wasn't even close. Ethan Caldwell was back. He found Leah outside the hospital that evening, sitting on a bench in the fading light. Sophia was beside her, signing excitedly about her day at school. Leah looked up as Ethan approached, her expression unreadable. You're supposed to be resting. I had something to do first. He sat beside her, wincing slightly. Sophia tugged Leah's sleeve, signing rapidly. Leah translated. She wants to know if you're the man who gave Mommy the magic paper. Ethan frowned. Magic paper? Leah hesitated, then pulled an envelope from her bag, thick cream-colored, with a familiar logo. The approval for Sophia's cochlear implant. Fully paid. Ethan met Leah's gaze. You weren't supposed to find out yet. Yet. Her voice cracked. Ethan, this is too much. I can't. It's not charity. He reached into his coat, pulling out another document. It's a job offer. Leah took it, scanning the page. Her breath caught. Director of Pediatric Rehabilitation. Caldwell Medical Initiative. You built this, she whispered. Started the paperwork this morning. Ethan nodded to Sophia. There's a school on-site for deaf children. Top ASL program in the state. Leah's hands trembled. Why? Ethan thought of the jacket she'd given him, the coffee, the way she believed in him when no one else did. Because someone did it for me once. Epilogue. 1 year later. The ribbon-cutting ceremony was packed. Reporters, donors, patients, all gathered to celebrate the opening of the Emily and Sophia Caldwell Rehabilitation Center. Ethan stood at the podium, his cane gone now, his voice steady. This facility exists because of a simple truth. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness changes everything. In the front row, Leah wiped her eyes as Sophia signed along with the speech. Later, when the crowds had dispersed, Ethan found Leah in the therapy wing, her wing, watching through the window as Sophia laughed with her new classmates. "Thank you," Leah said softly. Ethan shook his head. "I should be thanking you." She smiled, reaching into her desk drawer. "Then you'll love this." She pulled out a familiar navy blue fleece, the jacket she'd given him that first night, now framed with a small plaque. "Sometimes the coldest souls just need a little warmth." Ethan laughed, his chest tight. "Guess I can't return it now." Leah squeezed his hand. "Guess not." And in that moment, Ethan knew this was just the beginning. Did this story inspire you? Share it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness changes lives. And don't forget to subscribe for more heartwarming tales of hope and second chances.